Nice to see you. Can we start with the injury news? Obviously, Ben Cresceni and Matthias Viscordin came off. How are they?
Yeah, Ben's going to be probably 8 weeks, I think, in terms of picking up a hamstring injury. So around that period, which always conscious of giving out timescales because obviously we have to work off of how the lads feel, how their bodies are. So it doesn't require surgery, but it's one of those where, unfortunately, it was the back heel that he tried as he crossed, the line in terms of that we felt he did it then. And yeah, really unfortunate. I think he'd obviously done terrifically well at Blackburn, goes away in international duty, comes back and then picks up that. So really disappointed for the team, but also him because I thought he'd started to find a level.
How about Matthias?
And Matthias is probably going to be 6 weeks, I think, roughly, without being held to those time frames. I think that's a rough estimate, which I know people want to know. I think again it was the landing, which completely innocuous landing where he fell, and again doesn't require surgery, which is good news. So it's one of those now, just a case of settling it down and obviously seeing how he responds to the treatment and the rehab.
It's obviously a blow, though, isn't it, to lose those two players? Because as you said, they were just both of them starting to find their feet a bit, weren't they?
Yeah, hugely disappointing. Of course, Matthias' first goal as well. You're hoping that was kind of, and I've seen a change in him. I think the last 2-3 weeks. I think he just kind of settled. I think in terms of being a bit sharper, a bit fitter, being a bit clearer on what we're looking for him to do. I thought first half he did well at Blackburn. Then obviously took his goal well the other day and was in a good spot. So yeah, of course it's hugely disappointing to lose him, and yeah, bits that it's going to happen in football. It's extremely unfortunate, but as I always say, I think that's the importance of having depth and competition within a squad. And like I said, what it does mean is that there'll be an opportunity for somebody else within the group to step up and take that opportunity.
And how's everyone else? Has everyone else come through fine?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah, brilliant. Obviously, you're at home this weekend, aren't you? I won't need to remind you.
We are.
Home yet. Is that playing on your mind at all? The fact you haven't picked up your first win at home?
No, it's not playing on my mind. I think, do I want to win at home? I'm desperate to, but I think what plays on my mind is the preparation that we do, the training that we've done this week, the team selection, making sure that we give the lads absolutely everything, so when the whistle starts they're best prepared, and then also giving them the belief and the confidence that they can go and, there's always a balance to it of taking that information but also playing what's in front of you. And I think that's the big bit with the group and that we're pushing, is that connection, that understanding, that belief and energy to go and grab the game and go and impose ourselves on it and make it look how we want.
And how do you want it to look at home? Because obviously against Coventry, you're a very good side. Obviously you're on the back foot for large periods. Do you want to take the initiative when you're at home and get on the front foot?
In all games, to be fair, the plan wasn't to go to Coventry and end up it looking like it did. And I remember early on having joined, I said, on a bad day, what do we look like? And I think on a bad day like we had with the ball on Saturday, I think what we did see is lads that wanted to defend the box, defend set pieces, everybody getting back to defend, which I don't want us to look like that. I don't want to be a defensive team. I want us to play in the front foot, dominate the ball, be attack minded. But what I think we did show was a toughness that if we are having an off day and the opposition get on top, that we'll stick at it, which I think is really important. That I've said a lot about the lads giving everything for the shirt, and the quality wasn't there Saturday, but they definitely gave everything for the shirt, which is really, really important. I think those foundations, and then of course at home we want to dominate the ball, but we want to attack and create and be exciting to watch. Which trust me, I'm not just saying it. That's the work that I see and that we do behind the scenes. Is saying it and then actually implementing it and bringing it to games is different. I thought we've done it for spells. Blackburn I thought was excellent first half. Middlesbrough at home for 30 minutes of the first half, very, very good. What we want it to look like. The challenge for us, where we're at as a group, is how do we turn that 30 minutes into 60, 70 minutes, which is what we want it to look like at home. It's very rare and very difficult do you go out and dominate, start to end. I think, is unfortunately you've got an opposition that are trying to stop you do that. So they're the bits we're working on in terms of how do we impose ourselves and do it for much longer periods, because I think we've shown moments of really, really high quality and really good control, but it's just doing that more consistency and for longer.
And do you feel you're getting there? Because obviously everyone knows the upheaval we had over the summer. Are those relationships starting to form now, do you think?
Yeah, they're not. Of course, they're not fully there. You look at Coventry's team; they've changed just the keeper from last season. So, when you look at it, we had 6 new lads in the lineup, which They're bits. Of course, we use all the experiences. The weekend's another experience we've not had as a group that we've ticked off. And it's one of those. What we're chasing is consistency in performances, and that will come with the more time, the more belief, the more experiences we have, because of how we work, how stable I think we stay in between. I think is really, really important that you don't get uber negative on when you perform poorly but you get a point. The same as when you perform really well and you lose, the same as when you perform well and win. I think it's about how do you stay quiet, especially in the Championship when you have so many games that come thick and fast. It's very much how do you stay stable. So we're using those experiences, we're working hard as a group. I see the lads they've trained really well yesterday and today, and obviously the group we had Monday as well, and we'll keep building on it, we'll keep pushing it, and there's so much work from such a top group of staff behind the scenes that I'm confident and I know the lads will improve.
Wrexham up next. What have you made of them? Obviously new to the level, aren't they?
Yeah, you've got to look at the history. It's the last few years. It's been exciting to watch. Phil Parkinson's done an incredible job when you look at it. We know there'll be a difficult side. You look at their recruitment, what they've invested in the summer. Signed so many players that are proven at the level. That sometimes you have to kind of look beyond the results a little bit and know they've signed some real quality at the level. It'll be a difficult game, difficult challenge, but we're at home. There's been moments we've performed well at home. Middlesbrough, I thought there's some really, really good stuff, and we have to take all the experiences from the opening games that we've had so far and bring it all together and keep chipping away at that and go and dominate and make the game look how we want.
And what have you made of them so far in terms of how they've adapted to the level? Because it is a step up going from the National League to the Championship.
Yeah, so quickly. They're well organised, physical, hard to play against. I think I've watched numerous games. We've done our work. Know quite a few of their players as well. So I think we'll never ever at any level take any game lightly. I think like I said, you have to look beyond some of their recent results purely from the fact of the players they've got and the options they've got. So like I say, it's a tough game, but one we'll be ready for.
Brilliant. And then finally, everyone knows the Hollywood connection. Who would play you in a biopic? Do you think?
Someone old, overweight, and going balder. Yeah, no idea.
Anyway, best of luck for the weekend.
Cheers, thank you.
Liam, just go back to those injuries. With Crescenio, just your thought process now, Schlupp's still not available for this weekend?
No, he's back on the grass. He's probably back training with the group next week. So it's probably a little too early for him at the minute, unfortunately.
But on that point then, with Mahovo, do you have to fast track him a little bit now? Maybe quicker than you would have ideally wanted to do now into your plans?
Yeah, still unfortunately a little bit too early for Lucien. I think in terms of I am, as a group of staff, we're more than willing to take calculated risks, but at the same point you don't want to be reckless. I think in terms of where Lucien's at, it's one of those where it's still a little too early for him.
Is Cordoba available then after the flu at the weekend?
Yeah, Jose's been back in training. He's on the bike working Monday and then trained the last 2 days, so we've got him back in, yeah.
I mean, you obviously, it sounded the way you mapped it out after the game on Saturday, that was almost on the morning of the game, and you've got young Adalusi in there. Was Duffy not an option to come into the squad?
No, Shano similar picked up a little calf injury a little while ago, so there's been one that, nothing serious, he'll be back out soon. So, yeah, one of those where he wasn't available due to that. And to be fair, Theo's trained with us for a period of time now, so seen lots of him, and he's done terrifically well.
Marconde, as you said, he's managing this ongoing hip. Where is he in terms of the contention for this weekend?
Yeah, trained the last 2 days.
Yeah, and then as you said, no other players either available last weekend or coming back in that you got any issues with?
No, pretty much the same.
Just wanted to, you've obviously spoken there about Coventry. I just wanted to slightly reflect on that because you've said to us already this season that there's when you're watching the game, there's the emotional feeling around it, and then maybe the analytical side of it comes after the game. But just how frustrated were you there, stood on the pitch, Saturday with your team in possession, that aspect of it?
Yeah, I watched it back, and I think the biggest issue was probably transition. I think in terms of keeping it, I think when we did regain it, we either tried to attack too quickly and then gave it away because we didn't execute it with quality, or we just turned it over too cheaply. So we have actually never really got any control of the game, which you then end up doing a huge amount of running defensively, more than what we wanted to, and that was the biggest bit. And again, I think it's the first I've seen us like that. We haven't been like that too often. So again, I think I'm pretty sure it'll happen at some point in the future. Not very often, I hope, because you don't want to go a place and be defending like as for as long as we did at the weekend. But what it showed is that the group are willing to give everything, which obviously I just spoke about, which is hugely important. I think, what do you look like on a bad day? What does anybody look like on a bad day? And if you fall back on those behaviours, you'll always give yourself a chance to get something from the game. But we've got to work really hard to find the way that we want to impose ourselves on the game for longer periods of time. We keep talking about the same things, I think. But like I say, Middlesbrough, Blackburn, first half, so many good bits. But it's the bit we're chasing, the bit that will get better over time because of how we cope with pressure, etc. I think will be how do we dominate and make it look like we want it to for, like I said, 60, 70 minutes.
As you said there, I mean, the turnovers and not retaining the possession, I mean, that was clearly underlined in the pass completion stats. Is that just players not doing the basics? You talk often about the basics, just taking care of the ball.
Yeah, there'll be numerous aspects to it. I think in terms of it's tough, like especially with them, you whether there's some structural pieces to it in terms of when they were, they went long first half from keeper, and then second balls when you land on it, people then working hard enough to provide options, as well as people seeing the options quick enough, as well as people then executing it when they do see it. I think there's numerous factors that go into it, but it's the biggest bit I think is that you get caught up in the rhythm of defend it. Yeah, especially when you're in that block and the work you have to do. When you then win it back, you have to work just as hard to keep it, which sometimes you almost relax because you've landed on it, rather than actually your work rate has to go higher because you've got to work hard to make an angle to keep it or provide an option. So, like I said, that was the biggest bit I put it down to. It wasn't how we built up. It was more on those moments of regaining it or second balls that we just didn't do a good enough job of keeping it.
Zooming out just from last weekend, and you've touched on some of them games as well. I mean, I think of Watford first half in the Cup, very good control, and Portsmouth as well first half to the same degree. Generally, are you happy with the variety in your passing that you see in game to game? Short passing, long passing. Are you getting the balance, do you feel?
Yeah, it's bits that will get better. And again, that comes back to the bit that we work on around empowering players to make decisions. If we've spoke about it recently, for me, it's not. We're not going to be a team that plays short all the time, the same as not going to be a team that plays long all the time. And I think, when you look at where some of the players are at and the connections and, understanding their options, that's the bit that takes a little bit of time because, we want the players to make decisions. Naturally, they'll get some wrong, and our job's to, how do we really work hard to coach the lads to get, when you talk about stats and percentages, that they pick the right option more often than not. So they're the bits. I think it takes work, takes time, and I think we've shown really good variety. Blackburn, I thought, in terms of look how we get the penalty. 2 passes were in their box off a long ball. Same as how we've got things down the side, but then how we've progressed it through. I think it's the biggest bit we work with the lads in terms of seeing the pictures and making the right decision.
In terms of clearly you're going to have to make a couple of at least enforced changes, but you went unchanged from Blackburn to Colvin Sturm to your 11. But we know the depth you've got in your squad. Was it separating the 2 injuries, obviously? Was it in your mind maybe to have a look at shifting it up a little bit in terms of personnel this weekend?
I think because of the injuries, I hadn't picked the team for this weekend, so it becomes a little bit irrelevant, really. I think in terms of obviously we've lost the 2 lads, so I think I have to make changes anyway. So it'll be one of those. Like I said, fortunately we've got depth, we've got options. And it's that competition. Want people to step up, want people to grab the opportunity, want people to go and play with real personality and energy and positivity and bring them. And that's that'll be the challenge to the lads at the weekend. Go, as a collective, go and make it look how we want.
And you've said that though. You've said probably one of the difficult aspects of your job, and the one that you spend a lot of time on is team selection and trying to get the right 11 out on the pitch any given game. But you flip that, and as you've said there, if players who come in are actually performing at a good level but producing consistently, doesn't become easier, but it becomes a bit more of a simpler process, doesn't it, if the players are doing what they need to do?
Yeah, and there's numerous factors going into it, especially when you've got a young group, right? I think, and people adapting, and that's when you look at it. I think constant decisions. Who do I know what I'm going to get from? Who are the trustworthy, reliable ones? Who are the ones that actually need the support and maybe playing through a period where they're not quite at the level? Who are the ones that have to come out? There's so many factors and elements that go into it that it's the bit that keeps me up the longest and keeps me awake at night. And it's the bit I take obviously so seriously, I think, in terms of understanding the knock-on effect with the group, with the lads culturally, and making sure that, as I say to the lads, we need all of them. And you might not be in the team this week, but next week, as you see, we've got 2 injuries, it changes so quickly. So even more reason the lads have to stay so stable and ready mentally to, and physically to be able to step in and do what the team needs.
Yeah, and a lad who miscounted, but Jacob Wright, he's back, he's available, he's served his 3 games. And we're talking a lot here today, about in possession and control and that ability to retain possession. He's the sort of profile of midfielder that offers you that, isn't he?
Yeah. No, we've got him back. He's trained the last couple of days as well, so it's good to have him back in. Good, and I think for him as well, like, because of how he is as a person and what he's like as a professional, you kind of forget he's still so young. And again, I think coming here like he did in the January and then signing permanently and moving away from Man City and me coming in, there's been so many factors that were brand new to him as a professional that had a tough experience obviously with a red card and what that game looked like. But I think in terms of the learning he would have had in the last 8-10 weeks will have massively improved him. And of course we were disappointed to lose him, but I actually think having that the couple of weeks to probably breathe a little bit, to reflect, to kind of assess what has he learned, I think we'll see Jacob come back much better.
But also, you showed the trust in him because the first 2 or 3 games he's in your team and he's starting games as well. So you clearly, having come in the summer, liked what you saw there and the response you got from him.
Yeah, definitely, and the lads need to feel that. I think there's 2 aspects to it. I think the lads definitely need to feel the trust and the confidence, but they also have to understand that we're in a performance industry and we need to perform and deliver and win games. So I think there's always that blend with especially with the group that we've got, that we need to show that support, that belief, that confidence and that trust. But then back the other way, the lads need to know they need to deliver. It can't go on forever where you're nearly. I think that's the biggest bit. If we want to compete, if we want to hit the level we're capable of, if we want to be successful, we need to deliver. And that we're constantly working with the lads to to give them feedback. What does it look like? What do you need to be better at? How do you go and impose yourself on the games? And they're things that happen daily on the grass, but also in meeting rooms as well.
On Wrexham, you mentioned him there, Phil Parkinson. Paths crossed. Do you know too much about him? Have you come across him?
No, not a huge amount. No, we've had a couple of conversations over the last few years around players and bits and pieces, but no, I haven't. Not too many times. No.
And the whole Hollywood element, from a pure coaching perspective, that. He's done a great job of navigating that because ultimately he and his group of players have had to deliver on the pitch to get those 3 promotions, and they've done that. Yeah,
and even pre-Wrexham, if you look at Phil's career, it's a terrific career. In terms of success he's had, the volume of games he's done, hugely experienced. And again, that's why it doesn't surprise you what he's achieved at Wrexham. I think it's not easy. You can throw money at things, but it doesn't guarantee you anything. I think to build the right culture to. They've probably done it in a slightly different way, I think, to what most clubs are working like now. They're if you look at them, the last few years have signed players ready for the level, or if not, just slightly above. And they're not signing players to sell in the future. They're signing players to deliver now, and that's why again I think they, forget their results. They've signed championship ready players, players that have dropped down as well from Premier League. So we know it's a tough game, and we know there'll be a tough opposition. But at the same point, we should be desperate to get going. We should be desperate to. To bounce off the back of a point last week and get home and perform how we want to and do everything we can to try and get that first win.
And as you say there, players ready for the level. And of course, a player a lot of us will know is Callum Doyle. And Ben Napper, he was very candid. He didn't think, in terms of the scale of deal it would take, that Norwich could compete. So the fact that they've gone and brought him in, it underscores the level of their ambition, doesn't it? They're not happy just to come in at the Championship. They want to go on again.
No, not just him, but numerous players. Right, they spent a large amount of money without recouping anything. I think if you look at it, so big outlays. Which, like I said, everybody has a different strategy, a different way of doing things. So, as you see, when you look at Kiefer Moore, you look at Broadhead, Cody. They brought in people that are proven. So that I think is a clear indicator of what their intent is. That they want to push and be successful. And again, they're used to having that pressure on them.
And talking of pressure, as you say, just to finish, and you've already referenced it, you're probably getting sick of being asked about Carrow Road and getting that first win or the first point on the board, but turn that to a positive, can't you? If you get both of those this coming weekend, based on what you've already done, 7 from 9 away from home, you're getting that sense of a bit of momentum then into the season. Definitely,
and I've said it in numerous interviews we've had before, haven't I, in terms of desperate to win there, desperate to make it a difficult place to come, and we have to understand how we do that. And that like I said, I think it's showing the right level of focus, the right level of intensity, the right desire to attack and bring that side of it. The underpinned by being difficult to beat. I think it's one of those we're desperate to get going on Saturday and looking forward to the game.